Hello everybody, Friendly DM here, and today I'm super excited to show you this new D&D 5e supplement for Dragonlance. It's been a long time coming, and we've been waiting for it's unofficial, it's not by Wizards, but it's by writers of Dragonlance, former writers and writers alike, and you can find it on the Dragonlance Nexus, which is the go-to website for all things Dragonlance, and it's what's been keeping me going during this Dragonlance drought from Wizards of the Coast that we've been experiencing. It's got all sorts of goodies on there from the world of Kyrnn. So I'm gonna drop a link at the bottom of this video that you can go there and check it out. And if you want, you can download this. It's free to download the Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything, and it's just a really good 5e conversion supplement that you can, for your all your Kyrnn adventuring needs. So we're gonna go over this book a little bit. We're gonna check out some portions of it, and we'll see what you think. All right, so on the front cover here we have Lord Soth, which is one of my favorite villains of all time, and he is being pickpocketed by none other than Tasslehoff Barefoot. For all of you who are familiar with Kyrnn, you got to know Tasslehoff. He's just one of the best Kenders ever. And if anyone can get away with doing this, it would be Tasslehoff, or they call him Uncle Tasslehoff now. So I guess Uncle is a revered name among Kender, and once you become like legendary status among Kender, they call you Uncle. So now he's Uncle Tasslehoff, because they had an Uncle Trap Springer who was a legendary Kender that Tasslehoff would always talk about, and he would say, "Oh, I remember back when Uncle Trap Springer did this and that." And so now it's good to see Uncle Taz there. All right, so we have your table of contents. We have the races of Ansalon. Instead of going to the table of contents, I'm just going to scroll somewhat until I reach a point I want to talk more in depth about. So we have some great artwork. This Dragonlance has always been known for its great artwork, and here we have a really cool picture. Um, all right, we have the races of Ansalon. So you got your standard races, plus you got some ones only specific to Kyrnn. And you got your elves, you got your gnomes, you got your dwarves. There's goblins. You can be a goblin, which is pretty cool. We have humans and Tarmoks. Now Tarmoks are, I want to say, kind of like Goliaths in a way. They're a taller race. They're an offshoot of humans, but they're taller and they're like a tribal race. It's pretty cool. They got some. If you're interested, they got some really cool things and stats. So we got your Kender. You got to have your Kender in Kyrnn. There's no Dragonlance without Kender or dragons. Now this is cool. We've got the Kender Pouch Grab. They actually have a chart in here, a D100 chart. So you roll your D100s, and you come up with what your Kender finds while he's or she is borrowing something from another player or an NPC. So you roll a D100 and you consult the chart, and you get a bunch of nice, cool little things that your Kender can grab. So that's fun. You got Minotaurs. Now, the Minotaurs of Kyrnn are medium sized, and they're not like your Minotaurs in most other settings. They are mostly very honorable. Think about maybe they're kind of like Klingons in Star Trek. Very honorable, very warlike, and their honor is their life, kind of like the Knights of Solamnia, their saying and their oath. All right, you have Urdas. Urdas were the firstborn and most beautiful of the races. You make even the long lived elves feel plain by comparison, which isn't an easy thing to do. So that would be a pretty cool race. They're very, very fantastic, I guess. They're very beautiful. They are also tall. They range between 6 and 7 feet in height. So that's another option you can play. Then we have really cool Draconians. You can play a Draconian, which, were the grunts, the bad guys, foot soldiers in the War of the Lance and beyond. You could play maybe a Draconian who's seeking redemption, which would be awesome. A Draconian which is trying to turn from its evil ways. I think that would be a fun thing to play. In fact, if I ever can find someone else to DM a Dragonlance campaign for me, I would seriously consider playing a Draconian just for the great role playing aspect that would present. Here are the Phaethons. Now, the Phaethons are pretty cool. They get these fiery wings. They can actually fly too, which is pretty powerful. And I remember in the Age of Mortals campaign that I DM'd a few times is where I was first introduced to the Phaethons, and they were really cool. They helped the heroes out of the desolation. They helped them in the desolation, not necessarily. They just helped them along. You have your centaurs. You play a centaur, which would be interesting as well. They're also medium, even though they used to be large, I think, or they're large probably in other settings. All right, we have the Dark Knights, which is really cool. We have all the orders of the other Dark Knight orders, the code of the Dark Knights, how to join them. Now, it's be cool. I haven't done too many. Can't remember I think the last time I ran an evil campaign was probably first or second edition. It was a long time ago. Evil campaigns, they're fun, but they're tricky because what keeps evil characters together to work together? It's hard for them to really get together and have each other's backs and not betray each other or backstab each other at every turn. It's just one of those things. It's hard to do, but it's a lot of fun if you can pull it off. All right, we have the Knights of Solamnia, which is really cool. I love the Knights of Solamnia. They're all about honor and their oath, and basically if they're dishonored, that's their whole life is just gone. It's just destroyed. You have the Order of the Crown, the Order of the Sword, and the Order of the Rose. And basically, there really aren't any paladins per se, like standard paladins in Dragonlance on the world of Kyrnn. But the closest you can get to a paladin would be the Order of the Rose, because they can cast divine spells just like paladins. So that's basically how those work. You have the Knight's Trial. You also, if you want to join the knighthood, you have to undertake a grand quest, complete the quest. There's just a lot of cool things with the knights. Again, I'm not going to read every little thing. I'm going to let you, if you're interested, go check it out. All right. We have the Legion of Steel. Now, Legion of Steel was not as lawful or strict as the knighthood, but they were kind of like renegades for the knighthood, I guess. They didn't really fit in with the knighthood, but they had a sense of honor as well, and they were also the good guys for the most part. I wasn't a huge fan of them, but they're pretty cool to have in there as another faction. All right, then we have the Wizards of High Sorcery. You got the moons, the three moons. You got the Lunatari, We have Solinari, which is the white, and we have Nuitari, which is the invisible moon that only the black robe wizards can see in the sky. And these three moons are the gods of magic, and they are what fuel the wizards with their powers. Unlike wizards in other campaigns and other settings, these wizards get their powers from these three gods, respectively, from their orders. So we go into in depth about the Wizards of High Sorcery in here, which is really cool. How you can join, and I believe at third level you take the test of High Sorcery to join the orders. Now the cool thing about the test of High Sorcery is that you can go into this test, and it's supposed to be a really brutal test, where you can easily die. Now, you could think, when you create your character, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be neutral good, or I'm going to be neutral, lawful neutral, or, you create your character. But in this, you take the test, you could, depending on how you act in your test, you could come out being in a total different faction with a different alignment. Like you could go in there saying, I want to be a white robe wizard, and then something happens in your test and you do something different and you come out and now you're going to be a red robe wizard with the neutral order. So it's pretty cool in that respect. The DM can kind of mess with you and change your alignment on you. It doesn't happen all too often. I mean, unless you really screw something up or do something really drastically different than the alignment. Then this was always fun. You had renegades, and the renegades were the ones who refused to join the orders but kept casting spells beyond third level. So I had a lot of fun with this when I was a DM. During the War of the Lance, I remember I had this one player and she didn't want to join, and this was in second edition, which was an awesome edition, by the way. But she didn't want to join, and she was a thief mage. So she's causing all sorts of chaos, and she's getting up into the high levels. So now she's a hero in the realms, and she's making the wizards look bad because she's not joining. So Parselion, who at the time was the head of the White Robes, the Order of the White Robes, and the head of the whole conclave, he took it upon himself as a personal vendetta to get her, to capture her, and get her to take the tests. And it was just a fun time. She was always being hunted, and she always had to look over her shoulder. And it was just a lot of fun to DM that. There's so many things you can do with the wizards. It's just a good time. Later on, this is what I did in my campaign. So one of the greatest campaigns I ever DM'd was the Age of Mortals campaign, and I DM'd it a few times, and each time it was really great. It's a 3 module set, and unfortunately it's in 3.5. So in order to play it in 5th edition, you'd really have to do a lot of converting, and it would take forever because it's a huge campaign. It was like each campaign took around 2 years for me to DM it, 2 years and change for the whole campaign from start to finish. We played for 2 years. It was a good time. So it would take a lot to convert this to 5th edition. And I wish someone would do it because I would pick it up in a heartbeat and DM this in 5th edition. It was such a good adventure, such a good campaign. So basically what I was talking about was as every DM probably does, you want to tweak some things and make them your own. So what I did was I had Parselion became a lich in my adventure, in my campaign, in my world of Kyrnn. And he, with good intentions, he became a lich to try to save the Towers of High Sorcery because they were under attack by the demi-lich Fistandantilus. And they were all having their lives drained in the tower. So Parcelion was like, the only way I can save everybody is I have to become a lich, because then I will be immune to the life draining, being dead and all. So he did this with good intentions, but obviously he became corrupted over time, and the orders shunned him for being a lich, and he became evil. But it was a good role playing time, and so basically that's what I did with Parcelion in my Kyrnn campaign. And you can find that different things work for you. You can change things all around. You know, we have secrets here. You can find out a secret, and it's a power you can unlock as a wizard. They have the secrets of the white, red, and black robes, which is really nice. And I believe you only get one secret, but they're supposed to be pretty powerful. Ooh, Griffin wizards. Elves have a long tradition of partnering with griffins. Elven windriders of House Protector are one such example. Over time, elven wizards have developed spells that strengthen the bond between themselves and their griffin mounts, allowing them to provide arcane support to the windriders in times of great need. So these are white-robed elven wizards who ride griffins. How cool is that? That is pretty awesome. In fact, I am so intrigued that now I really want to play one of these, or at least DM someone who's playing one. It would be so cool. I love that. All right. Then you have your renegade hunters. Now, this would also be a cool profession. You're basically a bounty hunter for the mages or for the wizards, and you go out and you hunt down those renegades and bring them back to the towers to face justice. Now that sounds like a lot of fun as well. That could be a good time. We have all sorts of different types of wizards. Sea mages. It's crazy. There's a lot of goodness in this book. We have player options. Dragon overlords. Now, the Dragon Overlords were no joke, and they were the main antagonist in the Age of Mortals campaign that I ran. Was a white Dragon Overlord, and he was no joke. He was brutally powerful, and he was the last big bad boss at the end of the campaign that they had to fight after the 2-year culmination led right up to this fight. And it was an awesome epic battle. It was great. I mean, the dragon mini I had wasn't even big enough. It was a gargantuan white dragon mini that I had, and it wasn't even big enough. It had to be colossal. So we had to take like a CD case, which was about the size of the colossal squares for the map, and that would be its mount that it sat on, so that we could have a colossal mini. Some of those colossal minis now, like the red colossal dragon, is going for over $500 on eBay. It's just ridiculous. I'll probably never have that. Yes, I love minis. I'm big into minis, and that'll probably be another video for later on, I'm sure. We have Lord Soth, which is one of my favorite villains of all time. He was such a great Death Knight, and he actually got sucked into Ravenloft at one point, and he became a lord of one of the domains, which is pretty cool that they kind of like had a mashup and a crossover in that respect between Ravenloft and Kyrnn. Got racial weapons. We got all of that. And we have the constellations of Kyrnn with the gods and their constellations. All right. So here's the gods of light. Now, in this time, though, Paladine is no longer a god, unfortunately. unless you change it. It's up to you. As if you're the DM, you can do whatever you want. You can keep Paladine as a god. You can rewrite history. Anything goes when you're the DM. All right, we have also the gods of balance, and then we have the gods of darkness. And Takesis is also not a god at this time. She's dead. Well, like I said before, you can change that. You can have her resurrected. Because basically Takis is Tiamat. She's Tiamat in other settings. So I believe there's an adventure where there's a cult trying to resurrect Tiamat. So you could bring that over to Kyrnn. Have a cult trying to resurrect Takesis. Anything goes. All right. Now, this is what I wanted to really get into, the ambient magic of Kyrnn. Now, 3rd edition and 3.5 introduced the sorcerer into Dragonlance, or into all of D&D, actually. But it kind of made things a bit complicated in Kyrnn. Because now you had sorcerers, and sorcerers aren't going to get along with the Wizards of High Sorcery. Now, they brought the sorcerers in when the gods left Kyrnn for a while. So when the gods abandoned Kyrnn, it says, Palin went on to discover primal sorcery, the ambient chaotic magic infused in the world. Okay, so you had the power of sorcery was discovered in the year 403 AC, after Cataclysm, when a mysterious figure known as the Shadow Sorcerer came out of the desolation with strange magical powers which she taught to Palin Majir. So you had the introduction of sorcery into Dragonlance, which I'm not a big fan of, I gotta say. Sorcerers are great in other settings, but in Kyrnn, I'm not really a huge fan. Especially now that the gods came back and you have the Wizards of High Sorcery are back in full power. Now they're at odds with regular sorcerers. So they said they treat the sorcerers like renegades. But there's so many sorcerers now that they can't possibly go after every one of them. So they only go after the sorcerers that are causing a huge problem. So if you have a sorcerer who's sticking out like a sore thumb or being a pain in the arse, they go after that sorcerer. Which in my realm, or in my world, is when I DM this, the Wizards of High Sorcery are at full out war with sorcerers. And that's basically how I made it. I also made Parsalion, like I said, when he became a lich. He was shunned by the Wizards of High Sorcery. So he decided to go and unite the sorcerers. And he just made a huge organization of sorcerers to oppose the Wizards of High Sorcery. And he became the thing he hated the most, which was basically the head of the renegades. He became the head renegade. So it was pretty interesting the way that all unfolded. The way I did that. It was a lot of fun. Now here's something I really didn't agree with. Now when the gods left Kyrnn, mysticism was founded. Now basically, if you don't know what mysticism is in Kyrnn, it's you can cast divine spells as like a cleric would, but without a god. So basically it comes as an inner spark of spirituality from inside you. It says, by tapping into the spark, the mystic can coax it into a flame through which they are able to manifest powers previously only available through divine intervention. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't like the idea of clerics that are casting spells without their god's power, or without having a god or a goddess. It's just, I really don't like it. And now that the gods came back, it kind of takes away from the gods. Like, what is the point of the gods in the pantheon if you have um, mysticism? If you can do it without the gods, so I don't even use mystics in my campaign. Um, I'm sure, like, if you want, you can figure out like what you would want to do as well. But basically, I have, as far as bards and rangers go, because bards and rangers can cast divine spells. But see, bards and rangers aren't as don't have as many divine spells. They're like a hybrid class. They don't have as many divine spells as a cleric. So I kind of let them be, and I'm not going to nerf bards because that would be, or rangers. I'm not going to take away their divine spells because that would be just, it'd be too much. So I leave those classes alone. All right. More great artwork from this. Now we have chapter 7 with the magical weapons and items. And I was looking over this, and there are a lot of good items, legendary items in here from the past and for the present. We have the Dragonlance, which is very powerful. It's a very powerful weapon against dragons, obviously. It's infused with great magic. Take out the dragon. I'm surprised the orb of dragonkind isn't in here, or at least I don't see it. The dragon orb, surprisingly, is not here. I don't know if that was an oversight or what, but the dragon orbs were very powerful items that you could attract dragons with, and you could try to capture a dragon with them. You could try to take over, take over the mind of a dragon, but the downside was the dragon orb could take over you. So basically it could take over your mind if you fail to dominate it, and then you could become a prisoner of the dragon orb. So it was a dangerous thing to play around with, but it gave you a lot of power if you could master it and unlock it. Then we come to the creatures of Ansalon. Now it's pretty cool. It gives some stat blocks for different creatures that might want to, different creatures that are only specific to Kyrnn that you might want to run in your campaign. I'm just the only thing I can say about this that I don't like is that there's not a lot of creatures here. I mean, you could probably go to the Nexus and find a lot more creatures. So that would be something you could do if you wanted to get more creatures for your realm and for your world. I'm sure they have a lot more in the Nexus. It's a really cool picture, Kitiara with a Dragon Lord helm. Love it. And then we come to near the end of the book. You have the timeline of Kyrnn, which brings you from the age of Starbirth, where it all began, all the way up to the age of mortals. Where we're at the current time we are at now, 384 AC to the present. And this right here, the Age of Mortals and the Rise of the Dragon Overlords, is where that campaign took place that I was telling you about. That great Key of Destiny, Age of Mortals campaign that I will always look back on fondly. And that's the time. And now we're up to the present. And we close out the book with the geography of Ansalon. And we have all sorts of different places which are touched upon throughout Ansalon. And then at the end, the very end of the book, they give us a map of Kyrnn. So you've probably seen this map before. And it's in two halves. So basically that is Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything. Hope you enjoyed this review of the book and my insight into Kyrnn and how I DM things in Kyrnn. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, please like the video, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to me so you don't miss any cool videos coming your way over all aspects of D&D. So until next time, keep gaming.